When we've been doing something for a long time, we rarely stop to question whether we're actually doing it correctly. After all, if we've been doing it for this long, we clearly know what we're doing, right? Hey, I'm Shane, and today we're going back to basics. I'm going to give you a few tips on how to assemble, disassemble, and even hold your safety razor. Look, I know, if you've been shaving for years, you think you're past this. But I really encourage you to stick around, because after 8 years in this business, I've watched countless guys shave on YouTube. We've received thousands of emails about technique and form over the years. And I've come to understand that even very experienced people, and maybe even them especially, could really benefit from going back and just going over fundamentals. Because we tend to get stuck in our ways and forget that there might be a better technique for doing something. So whether you're brand new to shaving or whether you've been doing it for decades, I encourage you to stick around. You just might learn something. All right, guys, we're here for a hairy hands close-up. Sorry in advance. So the first thing we're going to talk about is basic razor assembly and disassembly. And if you've been shaving for any amount of time, you probably think this is trivial and old hat. But I've watched a lot of YouTube videos of veteran shavers, and the way that a lot of people assemble and disassemble their razors, I think could use some improving. We see a lot of people who put their razor down on a surface like this or on a towel, and they will drop down their blade and then just kind of drop down their base plate, and then they kind of screw in the handle like this. And it's really wobbly, and it's also not great if you have to align the blade at all. Now, something premium and really precise like the Blackbird, you don't have to worry too much, but this is kind of wobbly, kind of fiddly, and definitely not my preferred way of doing it. Similarly, some people will put the top cap in their hand like this, just kind of on their fingers, and then just start dropping stuff on like that. And in this position, this isn't very secure to me. And then they'll come in like this, and it's pretty hard to align things. Again, not the worst thing in the world, but not the best, especially if you have a blade or a razor that needs blade alignment. So here's what I like to do. It's safer, and I think better controlled and more repeatable. So we take our top cap and hold it in the tips of your fingers. By the way, I'm left-handed, so you might have to reverse some of this. Then we take our blade, just like the other guys did, we drop it right on top. And when the blade is on the top cap, I like to pinch it like this between my thumb and my ring, or my middle and index finger. That lets me control disassembly really easily, and it's safe, and I can move around quickly. I don't like it just balancing like this. It's just personal preference. So I'll hold it like that while I get my my base plate ready. But here's the big difference. So instead of just dropping things on, letting gravity do the work, I like to hold my top cap like this. I pinch the blade and top cap by the tabs inside of the top cap respectively. That holds it in there firmly. And then I take my finger on the back, my index finger, and I push down. And that lets me actually seat the blade fully. You can see that curvature of the blade. It's actually all the way down into the top cap. And now I have the blade exactly where it needs to be. I can align the blade perfectly with this grip. And then when we take our base plate, I just drop it over, and I give a little bit of room with my thumb and my middle finger to let the base plate come in. And then I pinch it down like that. Now it's hard to tell in this video, but the blade is fully seated down. The base plate is fully as close to the top cap as it can be. I have perfect control. And now when I take my handle, I just thread it in from the side. And it's really easy to do. The handle isn't doing any tightening right now because the head assembly is super tight with my grip here. And then we just cinch it down, and now I can release. That's a super good way to align the blade. It's nice, safe razor handling. Everything is always in control, and it's just a more pleasant way of doing it for me. And on disassembly, similar. Pinch by the sides. And I still hold the blade in the top cap here as I've released the base plate. I set that aside, and now I can just safely take off this. Some people like to let gravity do the work and they just kind of like flip this thing over and just kind of shake it and dump it out. I don't like that. I like everything to be controlled, especially the blade. And so, I like to grab it here. And by the way, sometimes your blade will be stuck because of soap scum and other stuff. And in that case, again, you do the pinch. Index finger on the back side, thumb goes on the post, and then you can just pull up on the tabs and dislodge it. Now this blade is obviously freely moving, but you can just pull it, dislodge it, and then you can take your finger off and you'll be able to get it off easily. Sometimes people will kind of pry it off. Quick note about blades and blade handling. Obviously we want to hold them by the tab as much as possible. It's not sharp over here. You can do whatever you want with it. It's very safe. But you don't need to be terrified of the sharp edges either. They're sharp, but things don't really cut you unless you slide against it. So if you have wet, slippery fingers, you want to really avoid this as much as possible. But there are times where you might need to, and so you shouldn't be terrified to if you need it. For example, a razor top cap like this that has the sides covered, if you have to remove this blade and it's stuck in there because maybe you left it there too long, maybe got a little rust on it and it's sticky, maybe there's just a lot of soap scum. In this case, how do you get this thing out? It's not that big of a deal to just grab it by the sharp side and just dislodge it. Again, you don't want to do that a lot, but don't be afraid to do it if you have to. It's not that big of a deal. We do it all the time. And just be mindful and don't let your fingers slip. But if you have to do it, you have to do it. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is razor grip. Again, something that probably seems trivial to you, but I've watched a lot of videos, and we get a lot of emails. I think a lot of you guys could use some improvement on the way you hold your razor. But first, I want you to think about how you hold a pen instead of a razor. When we hold a pen, we don't hold it up here. We don't hold it here. And we don't hold it like this. We don't hold it like this. We don't hold it like this. We hold it on the tips of our fingers, and we hold it up by the head, by the business end, because we want perfect control. And in fact, almost all of the pen is just there, well, obviously to hold the ink, but from a handling perspective, it's just there as a balance. It rests against your hand for stability, but all of the work is being done up here. It gives you really good dexterity and really precise control over your writing. That's how we want to think about holding a razor. We don't hold it here unless we're shaving our legs or our head and we need that extra reach. We don't hold it like a club. We hold it like a fine instrument, like a pen, and we hold it up by the top. We get a lot of emails from people saying, I have big hands. Well, look, my hands are huge. They are far bigger than the average hand, and I can assure you that if I can hold a razor like the Blackbird, you can too. And if you think you need a huge handle, it's probably because you are gripping it like this, or deeper in your hand, or you're gripping it too low. The best way to hold a razor is the same way you hold a pen, up by the top. I like this grip, where I'm pinching between a middle and thumb, and I'm pinching about half an inch or an inch away from the head. And I like to put my index finger on the back side. This is great for shaving with the grain or across the grain. Sometimes I'll even put a pinky down here as kind of a rest for extra stability, or a ring finger, but I'm not gripping. And when I shave with the grain, I have this kind of control. You can also do this kind of grip with a pinky on the bottom. That's perfectly fine. What we don't want to do though is this. It's hard to control the angle. It's hard to get good grip on it. It's hard to apply proper pressure. When we hold up here, we can add all the pressure we need, and we get perfect, precise control. But we don't shave against the grain this way, because imagine we had to do that. It forces your wrist all weird. But we keep the same grip for against the grain, and now we truly hold it like a pen. So we went from this with the grain to against the grain. We just tilt that handle up. This is exactly the way I hold a pen. And now the wrist comes over and we can work up like that. Super precise control. The head is always right at your fingertips. We never hold the handle back here or down here. certainly not into the palm. It's right up at your fingertips. You don't hold chopsticks like this. You don't hold knives like this. You don't hold pens like this. Fine instruments that require dexterity need to be held in your fingertips, and they need to be held up close to the head or to the business end of whatever you're doing. Shaving is no exception. So if you find yourself wishing you had more grip down here, I would highly encourage you to grip up here. The rest of the handle is really there as just a counterbalance, right? We've created a pivot point here between my thumb and my index finger. And so the rest of the handle isn't there for grip. It's not there for control. It's just there for balance. It counterbalances the head when you use it at the right spot. You'll notice that if we try to grip it down here, then the head will start to tilt. If we were to try to grip it up here, then the handle starts to tilt down. But it's perfectly balanced so that when you grip it in the right spot, you get perfect control. It takes away the weight of the head and it takes away the weight of the handle. They counterbalance each other, giving you the ability to control it exactly how you need. So again, with the grain, handle comes up for against the grain. So if you find yourself wishing, because of your big manly hands, that you had a huge handle, I would encourage you to just get up on these tips. All right, I hope those tips were helpful. And yeah, look, I know they're basic, but I think it's really important to occasionally come back to fundamentals, to restart your technique from core principles, no matter how experienced you are. So give some of these a shot on your next shave, and then I want you to come back to the comments and let me know how it went. Any improvement? Do you feel safer, more secure? Was it a little easier to do? And let me know. And look, if you decide to stick with the way you've been doing it, that's perfectly fine by me. As long as you're getting the results you want, and as long as you're safe and happy, I'm happy too. But give them a shot, because it could make your shaves just that much better. And as always, thanks for watching. Let me know if I can be of any help to you. Please leave a comment below or shoot us an email to support@blacklinerazors.com. We'll be happy to help. And I will catch you in the next one.